Hey, what is up, YouTube? This is We All Juggle Knives, juggling tomahawks today. There is a new Browning Tomahawk out, part of their Black Label tactical line. All right, you might remember this one. I have 3 videos on this. This is called the Shock and Awe. The new model, which is basically a larger model of the same hawk, this is called the Shock and Awesome. Okay, a little confusing. Shock and Awe, Shock and Awesome. Now the smaller hawk, total overall length is 10 1/4 inches, right? The larger hawk is 13 inches. Well, it's cool that Browning actually listened and, you know, they heard your request. They've made a larger version of the hawk. Very cool. These have solid one-piece construction, carbon steel, and these are mainly designed as kind of basically SWAT team breaching, urban survival, kicking indoors type stuff, urban warfare. You know, they're not designed to chop firewood necessarily. Okay, just giving you more of a close-up of the hawk. Yeah, pretty nice. Now here are the sheaths. The sheath has been re-engineered, right? But here's a close-up of the sheath. You see the loops there. The original sheath had a little problem with basically people would move this aside and then their thumb would be there and they would accidentally slice up their thumb. So what they've done, they've moved this right to the back, and there's still a spike there, but the spike is not sharp enough to slice you. Okay, so they've re-engineered the sheath, and they have a little warning for the instructions. All that the instructions basically say is that you should pull this out spike first rather than blade first. So you should pull it out like that for safety. Again, because if you pull it out blade first, there's a chance that you might slice yourself. Okay, now even though this is not really meant necessarily as a firewood or woods hawk, you know, I don't purchase a hawk without at least giving it a little spin just to make sure it can hold up to just your basic chopping. Okay, so at this time I'm going to roll in a little bit of a clip, just this hawk chopping into some of those larger branches over there, then we'll come back. All right, and it did fine. You know, that was a pretty large branch for only a 13-inch long hawk, but you know, that's what I had around. It did fine. I've also thrown this hawk. Okay, now what I'm gonna roll in is a highlight reel of some throwing footage, just for those who are interested in using this as a thrower, because it is a very durable hawk with the one-piece construction. So let me roll in like less than a minute of throwing and we'll come back. Okay, we are back again, and I have some good news and bad news about the throwing. It did well, it held up well, except for the handle scales. It has G10 handle scales under this wrap, but unfortunately, within a few minutes of throwing this, the handle scales popped right off. The screws unscrewed themselves. They were pretty small screws as well, and they basically popped right off. Okay, so slightly disappointing, but not a huge deal. I just put the scales back on. I secured it with electrical tape and then grip tape. So yeah, the G10 handle scales, I think they need to secure them better. They need to Loctite them at the factory or use better screws or something. I mean, they just popped right off within 3 minutes. And when they did come off, I noticed that around the handle here, it is skeletonized, meaning it's not one solid piece of metal. There's like an elliptical cutout, but it is still pretty solid. I mean, it's not like horrendously skeletonized, but there is a little bit of a cutout underneath the scales. And here's a size comparison for you. Even though this new Hawk is the larger of the shock and awe line, it's still fairly small compared to your average Tomahawk out there. On the left, that's the SOG Fusion Tactical Tomahawk. You know, a fairly stereotypical Tomahawk, and you can see it's noticeably longer, right, than the new Browning Hawk. And another size comparison with the CRKT Woods Chogun, designed by RMJ. And as you can see, the CRKT Tomahawk pretty much dwarfs even the larger model of the Browning. So my final thoughts on this new Browning Hawk: it's definitely great that they listened to a lot of people's requests and made a larger model. I could see them even making a full-size model, like 15, 16, even 18-inch models. I think the whole line would sell well. I like the use of carbon steel, usually superior to a stainless steel in this type of blade. The black finish held up really well. Yeah, except for the problem with the handle scales. There was nothing wrong with this Hawk at all, and a lot of stuff to like. As I said, the back spike is not sharp enough to slice you open, but if you need it to be, you can always sharpen it to a needle point if you want to. I like it semi-dull because it's not as much of a danger to you, but yet it's still perfectly pointed enough to fracture or pierce bone, which I think is what they intend it for. Now, as for its intended use as basically something for SWAT teams, it would be useful. I heard of an account of a SWAT team member had to pry open the outer doors of an elevator, and he didn't have something like this with him, so he used a folding knife. Well, this would be great for that, and save your folder. You can use this. Another account I heard of, most of the team was in the front of the residence. There was one member, watching the back. Some stuff went down. He had to make an entry through the back. He had to pry off an air conditioning unit and go through the window. And again, he didn't have anything like this, so he just pulled out a folding knife and did it. Again, this would have been great for that. Save your folder, just have a little thing like this on you. And lastly, the price, around $80. It's not cheap, but it's not out of reach. All right, so it's, intermediate on that. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this new Browning Tomahawk. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.